So in the last few videos, we've been focusing on those 6 plots up there, what we call the dream garden, getting our cool season cover crops in the ground and getting those plots that we're going to grow food in this fall, getting those ready to put some cool season transplants in the ground. But today we're going to focus back on this side on some of these older plots where we have some food growing, and I want to show you what we got going on here. So let's start out right here behind me where we have 4 rows of legumes planted. So this is our little bean and pea area for the fall. We have 3 rows of pole beans / runner beans, and then we got a row of English peas right there starting to get up and going. And we planted these first, obviously. They're further along than those English peas are. We got them trellis with our Horta Nova trellis here. And as you can see, these things are starting to climb that trellis and put on a good bit of foliage. So we've got our rattlesnake pole beans right here on this first row. We have our Christmas lima beans on this second row. We've got our Scarlet Emperor runner beans right here on this row. And this, where I showed you these English peas, this is our Sugar Prince English peas. And these things are starting to produce some little tendrils. I need to go ahead and get a trellis up behind those guys so they'll have something to climb upon. But back to these here, which are a little more developed, a little more further along. It's been really interesting to grow these 3 kind of pole bean / runner bean varieties side by side like this to see the differences in kind of the growth habit, blooming habit, you know, how quick they go, how much foliage they produce. Just been really interesting. So I want to show you kind of the main differences between the 3. So let's start off with our rattlesnake pole beans here. Now none of these are blooming yet, but it shouldn't be long. And they've greened up nicely for me. I haven't put any fertilizer on them. Just been keeping them well watered with that berry drip tape there. I actually let it run all night last night because we got quite a few plants in here. So we want to keep them well fed. But I haven't given them any fertilizer. I might give them a little bit of micro boost through that drip in the next few days or so. But everything's looking pretty good. What's different about these compared to the other 2 varieties, of course this is more of a bean, a string bean, so to say, or a green bean, whereas those others are more kind of like butter beans or bigger, flatter beans, maybe even dried beans you would call them. Anyway, these guys seem to produce a lot more foliage than the other 2 varieties, especially along here at the base, which means we will have to bend down on the first picking and pick a few, because there'll be a good many, I imagine, right there at the base. But once they start making beans up top here, the picking will be nice and easy. But these are definitely the most dense as far as foliage goes compared to the other varieties, but they're slower to climb and slower to bloom, as I'll show you here in a minute. Now these Christmas lima beans here have the least amount of foliage down here at the base or at the ground, but they are by far the superior climbers of the group. They started climbing first, and they're all, all the way to the top of that trellis there. I've already climbed 5 or 6 foot tall, and then now these little tendrils will start kind of creeping along the side here. Looks like we might be getting some blooms there. Haven't got any blooms on the rattlesnake beans yet, but looks like we might be starting to get some blooms here. Hard to tell quite yet. These are the best climbers, and I would say if you were growing these not with a Horta Nova, maybe you wanted to do like a big arch with a cattle panel or a big arch with a cattle panel or something. This would be a good one to go to, because I don't think you can give these puppies enough room to climb. They just like to run and run and run. So best climbers, that award goes to the Christmas lima beans. Not near as much foliage down here, but we're not trying to grow butterbean leaves, we're trying to grow butter beans. So those 2, the rattlesnake beans and the Christmas lima beans, I've grown before many a fall. These guys here, these Scarlet Emperor runner beans, this is the first time growing these for me. And the thing that immediately jumps out at you here is all those little pretty red blooms you see there. Most of your bean blooms are white, but these are just beautiful here. Nice red blooms. And they're just loaded with these blooms already. This is by far the first one to bloom. And I've never really seen a bean start blooming this quick. It's pretty amazing how fast they have started blooming. Now, as far as the foliage goes, the bottom and their ability to climb, these are probably in the middle. They're not climbing quite as well or quite as fast as the Christmas limas, but they're a little faster to get up and climb than, say, the rattlesnake beans appear to be. And if all these blooms are any indication of our harvest, we should have loads and loads of these things. Most all these blooms are at the base here. Haven't started getting any blooms on this foliage that's climbing up here, but we should pretty soon once those leaves get nice and big. Hopefully we'll just see pretty red blooms all over this trellis here, and if that happens, I'll be a happy man. One other thing to mention is that these red blooms seem to be super attractive to the bees. See if we can catch this guy in action here. You see him there? He ran off. The bees have been all over these red blooms on these Scarlet Emperor runner beans. And for all three of these varieties, they have taken to the trellis pretty well. I really haven't had to train them a whole lot. Things just seem to climb that Hortonova really well. That netting just kind of, I don't know what it is, but the plants just seem to like it a little better than those cattle panels I used to grow on. They just seem to climb on it a little better. Every now and then you'll get a stray tendril like this guy right here or this guy right here, and I will come in here every now and then and kind of help that one out, train it up that way, just to keep everything nice and clean between the rows. But for the most part, they do all this climbing on their own. So the fall beans are looking pretty good. We still down here in South Georgia have another probably month and a half, 2 months, maybe even more to the first frost date. So plenty of time to get some good harvest there. Now let's move on over here to this sweet corn plot. And the last time we were here, this thing wasn't looking so hot. So several videos ago, this corn was probably only about, I don't know, 8, 10 inches tall. And it was looking pretty pitiful because Sally dumped a bunch of rain on us right after we planted it. And we got some pretty sparse germination there. And that's where you can see some gaps between those plants. Not the best looking patch of sweet corn I've ever grown. But it has turned around and I'm a little more hopeful about it now. Now, this is a triple sweet bicolor variety called Primus that we carry on our site. And so in the last video, what we did was we came in here and we side dressed it with some Chilean nitrate and we healed it. We threw some dirt to it with our high arch wheel hoe. And we also noticed some worm issues we was having already. So I've been out here about once a week spraying it with some spinosad and then some of our complete disease control. And I seem to have conquered the worm issue. I hadn't seen any damaged foliage lately, so hopefully nip that in the bud. I did come in here a couple days ago and healed it one more time, this time with a rake. Just did it by hand, just pulled some dirt up on those stalks there to just kind of strengthen that root system a little bit more. But, you know, considering what we started with here, what we've dealt with, it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I think we may be able to salvage something here. Now these plants are pretty green. They're not quite as green as I like my corn to be. We're going to solve that here in a minute. But I think we may get at least a few ears off here. I'm going to have to push them pretty hard to get them to come off right around Thanksgiving, which is my goal. But I think we can do it. I think we can do it. It's probably going to tassel out shorter. For some reason fall corn, maybe because the heat units always tassels a little shorter than the spring corn. But I think we can push it and I think we can get it there. Over here, if you watch that video where we healed this corn, we had to scrap this last row here. Sally just did too much damage on this last row. So we scrapped this last row of corn here and put in some of these Tehama lettuce transplants, and these puppies have started growing nicely. Once they get going, they grow fast, fast, fast. You can see right here, they're putting on some leaves. And these things will make some big old heads. We got them on a 1 foot space in here, which is, you know, some people thought on the last video that was too close, but these things make big, big heads. So you need to give them some room. So we got those there. I would like for those to be a little more green than they are, the leaves. And so we're gonna give them a little boost today as well. So today, to feed that corn and lettuce, we're gonna be fertigating, which basically just means we're gonna be shooting fertilizer plus water through that drip system to feed those plants. Here we've got our newly redesigned Hoss Fertilizer Injector here. And so this is a 1 gallon model, as opposed to, we used to have a 2 gallon and a 3/4 gallon model. This here is 1 gallon. And the improvements we made, we got a heavier duty tank right here, made out of PVC, so you can leave this under constant pressure. Don't have to worry about it rupturing. Also, this fitting here, what we call the hose bib connector, is brass, where the other one was plastic. I've already got this one assembled. The assembly is really easy. You just have 2 lines here. You have a black line and a clear line. The black line is the end line. That's going to push water into the tank. It goes into this blue connection here, blue for water, and then it connects right here on the hose bib where that little blue dot is. And then your clear line here connects where the green is there, green for fertilizer, and connects into the tank right here. So the way it works is water coming from your spigot pushes water into this pressurized tank, and then pushes the water plus the fertilizer through this clear line out into your water supply. And then the only other thing to really do when you set it up is to put these little valves here in the middle of these lines. Turning these on and off allows you to kind of create the pressure, the vacuum you need in here to siphon the water and fertilizer out. We also have these flow discs, which will come in handy in a minute. I'll show you how we use those or which one of those we need. And we've got our nice little instruction manual here. We'll need that to figure out which flow disc we're going to use. So today we're going to be feeding with this, our 20-20-20 premium fertilizer. It's a great balanced fertilizer. You can put this just about everything in your garden. And then we also like to add some of this stuff right here, our Micro Boost micronutrient supplement. These two work great together. They mix great together, and they'll just do wonders for your plants, make you look like a hero. Now that corn, we already side dressed it with some Chilean nitrate. Now we're going to feed it with some of this. Corn is a heavy feeder, needs plenty of fertilizer, especially nitrogen. So got to push it. And then as far as the lettuce goes, the lettuce is not quite a heavy feeder, as much of a heavy feeder as say the corn is, but I have noticed over the years, if you don't push lettuce early, it will end up just making a small head, or it just get kind of stunted and not do anything. So we want to make sure we push it early so we get some nice big heads. And this right here is the perfect recipe to do that. So let's go ahead and get this in our cup here so we can mix it up. Now the plot we're feeding today is 20 by 30 approximately, so about 600 square feet. I usually recommend anywhere from 1 to 2 pounds of this per 1,000 square feet. And just keep in mind, when we're doing this, we're doing what we call spoon feeding. So we're just giving a little bit at a time in frequent applications, so we don't have to worry about burning the plants. Anywhere between 1 to 2 pounds per 1,000 square feet, you're plenty safe there. I usually don't measure it out. I've done this long enough, I kind of know. I'm gonna put a little bit of that in there, and I'll shake it down just to kind of give you an idea as far as the dry volume, what we're working with. That looks to be about 24 ounces there, 3 cups or so. And then I'm gonna come in here with about a cup of this. I'm not gonna measure this either, probably should. Come in here with about a cup of this. So we got our mixture in there. I want to go ahead and dissolve it in this pitcher right here, and it'll make it easier to pour into this injector tank. You can pour the dry fertilizer into here if you want to. As water gets pumped in here, there's a little agitator in there that will dissolve it. I like to go ahead and dissolve it ahead of time. So let's get a little slow drizzle of water here. I got this little nail here I'm just going to use to kind of mix it up and help dissolve it. Stir it around there. This stuff dissolves pretty easy. You can use warm water if you want to dissolve it really fast. I've never had an issue getting it dissolved with cold water. And then we're going to start pouring it into our tank here. You can see beneath that lid there's that agitator I was talking about, and then you have what sucks up the water and fertilizer mixture to send it out into your water supply. So we're going to set that set up over there. We're just going to start pouring this into our tank, trying to be careful as we can. And if some of that isn't dissolved completely, it's not a big deal. Like I said, it will dissolve once in the tank. Get a little more water, get that last little bit out of there. And then you want to go ahead and fill the tank all the way up. Just like that. And then we're going to go ahead and put our lid on here. Kind of just twist all this around. Get that nice and tight. There we go. So now let's talk about these flow discs right here. These little pieces of rubber, like little rubber washers. And whether you use these or not is going to depend on how much water you're fertigating at a time, how much water output your drip system has. In the manual here, it tells you for each flow disc the range of water output. So for the white, you're going to use that if you're putting out 60 to 120 gallons per hour. The black 30 to 60, and the red 7.5 to 30. So you need to be using or putting out at least 7.5 gallons per hour to run this unit right here. Now, how do we figure out what our gallons per hour is? So do a little quick math here. On our drip tape, the output is 4.4 gallons per minute per 100 feet. Okay. These numbers here in gallons per hour, so to convert that to gallons per hour, we just multiply 0.4 times 60, and we get 24 gallons per hour per 100 feet. Now, the system I have behind me, that plot, has 5 rows of tape that are about 30 foot long. So I'm working with 150 feet of tape. So this is 24 gallons per hour per 100 feet. That's our tape output. I have 150 feet, so I just need to multiply this number by 1.5, which is going to give me 36 gallons per hour. That's the output of the drip tape and the plot we're going to be fertilizing today. So if I go back to my chart here and look at this, I'm going to need to use this black flow disc. And the flow disc installation itself is really, really simple. So I'm going to grab the black flow disc here. Save those others. You always want to save these, especially if you're like me and you've got plots of different sizes or different amount of tapes that could be in different plots. Sometimes I may need to use the red. Sometimes I may need to use the white. Sometimes I may be putting out more than 120 gallons per hour and I don't need to use any of these flow discs. Now you insert this thing in the hose bib connector on this end that hooks up to your spigot. And so you just want to stick it down in there. And the trick is to get it all the way down in there and get it flattened. I like to use the head of this nail right here and get it pushed down in there nice and secure so it won't flip around or turn around. You poke it down in there good, it'll stay in place. My washer came out there. Put that back in there. Get that flow disc nice and secure down in there. Get your washer secure. and you're ready to go. All right, so let's get her hooked up here. I've got a 4-way coming off the spigot at my well. I just use this little hose for, you know, mixing this tank here, washing my hands and stuff. And these others I use to run hoses to different plots. I'm going to put my injector hose bib connector on this one right here. And then I'm going to put a water hose right here. This is going to run down to the plot that we're going to be fertigating. And I want to make sure these inline valves here are off. And you'll see why that's important in a minute. That's going to kind of create the vacuum or the siphon we need to pull this fertilizer and water out of here into our water supply down to our plot. Then we're going to hook our water hose up to our filter and pressure regulator right here at the beginning of this drip system. Just like that. And now we're ready to get the juices flowing here. So the first thing I'm going to do, make sure my spigot's on. I got those inline valves off right here. I'll turn this switch on my 4-way on to get water going. And I need to tighten that a little bit. There we go. To get some water going into the tank via this black line here. I'm kind of building some pressure in that tank. Also, that's going ahead and getting those drip lines nice and filled up, pulling water good. So I'm going to let that kind of do its thing, let them drip lines fill up for just 15, 20, 30 seconds or so. And then what we'll do is we'll flip these inline valves and we should start seeing some fertilizer pulling through there. So I'm going to turn this one on first. You can hear that water moving through that line as soon as I turn that line on. And let that pressurize for a second. And then as soon as we flip this one, we should start to see that kind of dark green fertilizer mixture we made come through this line and start getting injected into our system. Turn it on. Get a little air bubbles out of there at first. And there we go. Still a few little air bubbles in there. So we can see it coming through here, all the way around through that hose, back through here, into our water hose, down to our drip system. And down here back at the garden plot, we can see those inflated drip lines there, feeding that good stuff to that lettuce and that corn there. So this fertigation process we use is great for many different reasons. It saves you a lot of time, certainly a lot quicker than applying a granular fertilizer. That took me a little longer than it normally does because I wanted to do it step by step, but usually in 5 minutes I can have that thing set up and going. So it saves you time. It's also going to save you money on fertilizer because all of your fertilizer is getting used. You're putting it right there at the plant roots where they can use it. You're not losing any to runoff or heavy rains or anything like that. So all of your fertilizer, or almost all of it, is getting used by the plants. It's a better use of your fertilizer, better use of your money, and it's also going to be more effective. It's going to feed those plants quicker, give them a nice pop, and you can be able to walk out in this plot here in a day or two and tell a considerable difference with these plants. So we'll continue to spoon feed or microdose. Two terms kind of mean the same thing. We'll continue to do that on this plot every couple weeks as this corn and this lettuce grows and matures. Like I said, we're going to try to push this corn a little bit, want it nice and big and healthy, and hopefully we'll have some delicious ears of sweet corn come Thanksgiving. I'll put some links below to our fertilizer injector, the fertilizers we use today, all the seeds we talked about, so you can head on over to our website and check those out. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to give me a big thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and ring that bell so you get notified every time we come out with a new video. And if you did enjoy this video, check out these other 2 fertilization videos right here. I think you'll really enjoy those as well. We'll see you next time.